when we're trying to make something, whether it be 13 Hours or Black Hawk or Warhorse, to me, right, and maybe I just speak for myself, but it's really a love letter. It's a love letter to um, give back to those that um, sacrificed and those who answered the call.
Battle Line podcast. If you look at the length already, this is definitely a marathon interview, but it was
For
really good.
us. I mean, for us, if it not for Sean Ryan, this is like a third
No.
of what his show is. But yeah,
Yeah, I could
yeah,
never do the
I
Sean
don't know.
Ryan thing. I always feel like after 2 hours, 2 hours is enough, right? No, for anybody. But it was a great interview. And I
Yeah, he was
actually,
awesome.
man,
He
Johnny
was
Strong's
awesome.
background is just really awesome. The amount of stuff he's done in music and film, now that he's directing and writing and basically
Yeah.
doing all of it. But you guys probably know him for Black Hawk Down, for Fast and the Furious. But you're going to learn a whole lot about him. The first thing I have to say to you guys is we are going to do a Q&A episode. Get your questions in now, because by the time you're hearing this on Tuesday, we're going to be recording pretty much right after that.
Yep.
Any question you have, just send it to battlelinepodcast@gmail.com. We have not done a Q&A in something like 5 months, so I'm really looking forward to doing it. Really looking forward to answering all your questions. So once again, just get them in now, battlelinepodcast@gmail.com. Hey, before we get to Johnny Strong, I have to talk about Bubs Naturals because I love Bubs Naturals. I take Hydrate or Die after I go for my outdoor cardio anytime. It is the absolute best. It's you're going to get your hydration, you're going to get your electrolytes, but without putting all the sugar and crap in your body that you're going to get with Powerade and Gatorade
Yeah.
and all that. It is the best. Uh, Collagen protein is awesome also for post-workout recovery because
That's
that's
what
something
I'm
you're
drinking right now,
dipping
man.
on.
I got coffee with the collagen and some MCT oil because I worked out right before I came in the studio. I mean, that's where it's at, man.
Yeah, you're not going to get that in your diet. I mean, I always do often say when people talk about staying fit, people can do their calories, but also their macros. Collagen protein, though, is not something you're getting no matter how much protein you're eating. So it's really something that it's a dietary supplement. It's something that you need to supplement with to get the benefits of that for your hair, your skin, your nails. You're also helping an amazing charity in the Glenn
Yeah.
Doherty Memorial Foundation, and you're supporting the show. So go out and check them out, bubsnaturals.com. I know you've seen it on the shelves of other places, but they give our listeners a great
Yep.
discount. So go to bubsnaturals.com, use the promo code BattleLine, and you're going to get 20% off any of the products that I just spoke about. We really appreciate their support over the years. We love them. Bubsnaturals.com, promo code BattleLine. With that, let's get right over to Johnny Strong.
From Kansas City to New York City, from planet Earth to extraterrestrial life in space, a podcast with no equal, engaged in unconventional warfare through your speakers and headphones. This is a show about embracing the suck, conquering your demons, and finding God in the face of adversity. Chris Tonto Peranto.
Switch is on. Motherfucker, I'm gonna shoot you in the face.
Ian Scotto.
Ian and I have been dating for a long time.
You are now tuned into the Battle Line Podcast.
The Switch is on, Battle Line Podcast. Very honored to be joined by a guy we've been meaning to have on for quite some time. Truly like a jack of all trades, I would say. Johnny Strong, actor, musician, martial artist. Most recently, your film is Warhorse One,
Yeah,
which
real
you
good
star
film.
in as
It's
Master
excellent.
Chief Richard
Excellent.
Murko.
Excellent.
But I would say more people really know you for Fast and the Furious, Black Hawk Down. They may even know your group Operator. So with that, yeah, it's an honor to have you on, man. We've been really dying to do this.
Yeah, well, I appreciate you guys having me on.
Man, and you guys, you said you're out shooting last night, film shooting or pew pew
No,
shooting?
yeah. Well, yeah, mostly film shooting. Like sometimes pew pew. Like 2 days ago, we were in the mountains doing pew pew while we were filming. So
That's cool.
yeah, night shoots is pretty brutal. I think a lot of the movie based on your experience was a lot of night shoots. You know,
It was, yeah, it was pretty much, we didn't start till, I think we had to be there, or the actors had to be there like at noon. We didn't have to be there till like 3, and then it went
yeah.
all the way till past midnight. But Michael Bay, I don't think the dude sleeps, dude. I mean, you probably know better. I think I don't think he ever slept. So, but yeah, it's just nuts because you guys are there all night filming. And
Yeah, we were in a like a set that is a prison for this next film I'm working on. And it's brutal, you know, you start to see the sun cracking through the walls and you're like, oh man, we've been here all night. So yeah, it's been tough, but really awesome. But thank you guys for having me on the podcast.
of course.
dude,
Can you reveal-
it's an honor. Yeah, can you tell us?
Can you reveal
are you
what
allowed to-
what you're filming?
Well, I'm working on the sequel to my film Warhorse 1.
Oh, nice.
Oh,
Okay.
shit.
Yeah. I'm in the process of making like a trilogy out of the Warhorse films, you know.
Wow. And are you, which I didn't know that. I mean, I knew you acted, but I didn't know you were now a producer. You know, you're right. I mean, you're doing everything now. You've basically taken it from the Hollywood, whatever you want to call them, you know, and you're doing it all yourself to control, which is amazing. But dude, that's just got to be stressful as hell on you. Cause, or maybe it's not, because everything you have control. Really have control of it all.
I'll tell you what, I was looking in the mirror and I just spotted like a gray hair coming out of my head. And I was like, man, I didn't have that before I started this thing. It's tough, man. Each hat that I wear in the process, and I've been this way even with my music when I was younger, where I recall, you know, even, you know, being like 13 years old and being in a rehearsal and listening to the bass player and going, man, I think I could play better than that. Or I wanted to sound specifically one way or the other. And so I learned how to play the bass and the guitar and the drums and all that kind of stuff. And then
That's like Dave Grohl. That's how he was.
Yeah,
man.
you're doing
When
all
Foo
everything.
Fighters. He did the whole thing, and then you ever see the documentary on Foo Fighters?
I haven't, no.
Because the interesting thing was, like, he hired a drummer, and then behind his back, he re-recorded all the parts because he was like, I could do this better. So that sounds like a similar experience.
You know, I don't, and a lot of people might listen to that and think, you know, saying I could do it better is one thing. I don't know if it's that. I can tell you from myself, right, that I have visions, whether it be, you know, the visual aspect or the audio aspect, where I know what I want it to look like and sound like. And so I feel like if somebody else is doing it, it's almost like a different type of output than what's going to come out of me, you know? So as a writer and director and actor and all those kind of things, I feel like the vision that I'm trying to achieve is more complete when it comes out of me.
Well, your message, I get that. I mean, I can see that from, I mean, even the bit, and I want to call it a bit part in Black Hawk Down, because that's where I first got to know, I mean, not know who you are, but yeah, just those little bits of, you know, you playing Randy Shugart and, you know, the game. I just know from the Game of Thrones guy. What's his name?
Nikolai was playing Gary Gordon.
His Gordon, but just those little bits, just seeing the emotion and I think that's where actors are really good at getting. It's not what they say, and it may just be a split second, but you can see it in their eyes that they're there. They're emotionally there, and as veterans and guys that do go through, you know, that combat, that's real. I mean, we'd say the jackassery, and there's bravado, but I think there is a lot less than that than the movie. I mean, the Hollywood wants to put that in there, but then it's there. Don't get me wrong, it's there, but it's just the little flutters of the eyes, the little, you know, I don't want to say doubt, but just hey man.
No, this is something, what you're touching on is really interesting. And I consider myself a student of the art of filmmaking, and film, as far as like artistic medium, is in my opinion, what I would consider the youngest of all mediums. So dance and singing and music and plays and painting and all these things, sculpture, have been around for centuries. Film is just a little over 100 years old. And there's something really magical, at least for myself as an artist. My goal was always headed in the direction of becoming a filmmaker. And the three special things about film is the visual, the audio, and then this magic element that happens when the performances of the actors and the music and what you are witnessing visually come together and create something magical. You know,
It's almost spiritual to me. I'll be honest.
Absolutely.
It's spiritual.
100%. And, you know, that thing that you were talking about in the eyes, right? There's, I was trying to explain this. So a good friend of mine is a former SEAL who's actually made an appearance in the first film. He was the chief of the SEAL team that comes in the end of the film.
Yep.
Mikey Sowers, and I brought him back on for the sequel, so he reprises his role. And I was trying to explain to him while we were doing a scene that in real life, you know, soldiers, right? I would say objectively, you don't want to show your buddies that you're afraid. You don't want to show your buddies that you got a little bit of doubt of what's happening around you or what it might be, right? So you wear that poker face.
Yeah.
The thing about films and movies that's, in my opinion, necessary is you have to break that facade so that the audience can see in the actor's eyes if there is doubt, right? So in real life, right, we're all actors in real life, right? At the end of the day, you may, you know, go to a party and you got the worst haircut of your life and you're not confident about it or whatever, you know, but you kind of play it off like everything's cool, right? In movies, you almost have to break that wall down a little bit so that the audience can see it. And I try to explain that to him. I go, listen, Mikey, you're a former SEAL, right?
Yeah.
As a former SEAL in this scene, naturally you'd want to play Clint Eastwood, like play it like, you know, oh, we're gonna kill everybody here, right?
Yeah.
But for the audience to see something genuinely authentic in like a little bit of doubt in your eyes or nervousness, then what happens is the audience is watching what should be considered, right, this, you know, operator that's trained and he's a killer and he can handle any situation. If they see you a little bit nervous, then they get nervous. Then they go, oh man, if he's nervous, then this whole situation might be fucked. So
and it brings us in. It does.
Yeah,
and as veterans too, it brings me in because you're exactly right. That evening, or even, I mean, I spent 9 years before that working in the global war on terror and fighting, and I know, of course, I never showed it to the fucking guys, and
right.
But yeah, there were times like, oh shit, dude, we're gonna get it. And you know, you got to kick that out of your head. You're fighting with your but it happens for a brief moment, and if you guys capture that, somebody like me, like even in Warhorse, or even just where you come in to talk to Durant and say, hey, Gordy's gone. With me, I saw bravado, but I saw, holy shit. I knew it. It's like, I get tingles because I could just imagine myself had that feeling going, holy shit, dude, okay, fuck this. We got to still fight. But
so an interesting thing about that moment, right? So we had a writer that was with us in Morocco and North Africa while we were shooting that. Ken Nolan, and there was like that scene in particularly, right? Originally in the Zalian script, Nolan, Zalian, a couple other people that contributed to that script, there was like almost just a half a paragraph, maybe like 3 sentences that described Randy and Gary's entire moment on the ground protecting that crash site. And I remember going, man, this is such a special moment in this event. You know, those two guys, right? Everybody, you know, you can't, it's not like you discount anybody's experience there, but that event, if you look at it objectively, right, there's many things that happen. And I don't know if you follow Brad Halling, but he does these great posts around the anniversary all the time that I like to follow. But that little vignetted moment of Randy and Gary and what they did was so special. And I remember as an actor, right, this is kind of twofold, is like, as a young man, I feel differently now as a filmmaker and an older man. But as a young man, and I don't want to speak for everybody, but for myself, it was always more like my character, like, what is my character doing in the movie or whatever, you know, you kind of like, as a young man, you're a little bit self-centered and think about yourself, you know?
Sure.
But I remember specifically on this film, right, Black Hawk Down, it was one of the first times that I thought, man, it wasn't just about me. It was about this, it would be such a disservice to this little vignetted moment of these two guys and what they did to whittle it down to, like, you know, 3 sentences. I think it was like, I wish I kept it, but I think it was something like Randy Shugart and Gary Gordon fight furiously to protect the crash site, and from underneath the fuselage of the helicopter, you see the boots of the Delta operator come up as if he's been shot and killed. And that was it. It was like a couple sentences. And I remember I walked down for breakfast one day, and Ridley was sitting at this table, and I sat down and said, hey, Ridley, you know, I hate to bother you, but this is such a special thing, man. We should really do something. And he before I could even finish the sentence, he kind of stopped me, like, had his like cigar. He's like, don't worry, mate, we're going to make something great. We're going to build that up and make it bigger and blah, blah, blah. So,
do you think
like,
he thought in his head, he was just like, this guy just wants to have more screen time?
you know, man, I'll tell you what, everyone, in my experience, you'll find people fight for stuff like that on movies.
Yeah,
like,
of course.
Actors, certain kind of actors, and I'm actually the opposite, right? So a lot of actors would fight for more dialogue. I actually, and that's why I brought up that moment of when I bring in the rifle to Durant and I tell him that Gordy's gone. That was almost a paragraph of dialogue, and it was something about, I'm trying to get the radio started, and you know, a bunch of different things that dialogue wise. And I remember reading it and thinking, man, I don't have time to say all this shit. I would run in and I would give him the weapon and I would say, I'll be outside. Good luck. You know, that kind of thing.
And that's actually pretty more realistic than sitting there trying to fuck with at least if you're in the special operations community, I can say for that.
Yeah. I mean, yeah, you keep it concise and get to business, you know,
and then you got to go take care of business, go back to work. Exactly.
So, and I remember in that moment in particularly, I felt like one of the things that I specialize in is being able to communicate. And I tell my actors this as a director, you know, when I'm working with actors, a lot of times people use their face. They think acting is with their face, but it's really with your eyes. What you can convey through your eyes that's why the old adage is, it's the window to the soul, you know? And I think some people get confused and think it's the way their face. Really, you don't have to move your face at all. You could communicate that through your eyes. And I felt like, for myself, the dialogue is unnecessary. I could do all that communicating just by going in, looking at him, and through my eyes convey, oh, this is fucked. I'm gonna do my best. You know what I mean? Like that kind of thing.
And that's what we got. I mean, that's what I got. And that's what I said when I texted, said, your eyes, man. It's your eye. And I swear, Ian, we didn't work this out. It just happened that way. That's what I'm looking at when I'm looking at war movies, and especially those that are recreating real life events, especially if I know guys at those events as well. As I'm looking at those eyes, and I'm looking at believe me, all us guys, we're looking at tactics. It sucks, but if we see something off, even just a little bit, we're gonna fuck, man. They fucked up. But that scene, you can see in your eyes. At least I can. I don't know if you're going for that, but I saw, and even I watched today, is that you can see that, like, determination, but fuck.
I mean, that's the thing. You know, the thing is especially for males, right, is we have kind of a and I think that's part of our problem in modern day is like we've been so complete, the savage has been so completely whipped out of us that we can't be savages, and within that creates a lot of mental health stuff for people, right? So
For sure.
Yeah, I agree.
you know what I mean?
Yeah.
But the point being is, when a lot of time male actors, they have this this kind of bravado, kind of false sense of like tough guy thing. Like a lot of the modern action guys are like the tough guys. I tend to go steer the boat in the complete other direction, where I've been running guns and fighting like for, I've been doing mixed martial arts, Brazilian jiu-jitsu for like 26 years, 27 years. So most of my week is filled with training with guys that are trying to choke me to death, So the tough side, or shooting guns and training, for me, the toughest guys I ever met, like Chris, you seem like one of the, you and I, this first time kind of face to face, but you seem like one of the nicest dudes in the world. Some of the toughest killers I've met are the nicest dudes that I've ever met. You know what I mean?
Well, there's nothing to prove. I mean,
Well, that's the thing.
and
I think that's
you know,
what it is. You know what I mean? Is there isn't anything that you have to create to cover up or to fill that gap. You know
well,
what I
and
mean?
I think a lot of it is I appreciate that, man. And Ian, I'm a pretty nice guy, right? Ian's been
Yeah,
around.
for sure. We wouldn't do
so-
this if- yeah.
I know, but I think a lot of it too, though, is that we know what it feels like when you have to go savage, and we know it's going to stick with us forever. It's
Sure.
not going to go. That's where the post-traumatic stress comes in,
Yeah.
or shell shock. So we already have enough of that. I don't want any more of that unless the switch flips on and it's absolutely
switch,
necessary.
100%.
Exactly.
So,
So
yeah, that's the
good
thing.
job.
That's why I don't try to play tough in movies, in the portrayal of these type of characters. I think I at least for me, my process is more like to show that human aspect, that there is fear, there is doubt, there is love, there is compassion, there are those things, and I think that's more important at the end of the day, to be able to touch people's spirits, with a performance.
Well, and that's what
Well, you know what is
film should be.
interesting
Yeah, I'm sorry. Ian.
is-
Go ahead, bud.
No,
I'm
it's
sorry, I
cool.
cut you off.
Visually, right? People just watching this, or if you're listening, you can go over to YouTube, but you do not look like the stereotypical actor of what they put in as an operator. Meaning you're a fit guy, you're a martial artist with years and years of experience, but the stereotype in Hollywood is like this roided out, jacked guy. And we all know what I'm speaking about. And here's the funny thing: as a guy who's interviewed so many people, yes, without saying anything about what these people may or may not do, you could go on Instagram and look at guys like Dale Comstock or Nick Irving, and they're massive. But when they were Army Rangers in Nick Irving's case, or in Delta Force in Dale's case, they weren't giant because you can't really do cardio when you're that big of a guy. So you actually do look more like the Navy SEAL who serve, because you can't be on steroids and be a Navy SEAL. So I think that's interesting as well, is you don't fit the stereotype.
And is
Or-
that from just working around because you're around the community a lot because of the
Sure.
films you are,
Yeah.
and you've embraced the community, which is awesome. You've brought guys in like Wes. You said you brought him in and he's part of the film.
Wes
And I-
Whitlock, you have to say names. People
Yeah,
aren't gonna know
by
you're
the
talking
way,
about.
I'm
We-
sorry.
we-
I'm
yeah,
sorry.
no.
And Andy Arabito is a great guy, another great guy. He
Fucking
was
awesome, dude.
great
Yeah.
guy. He makes the best knives in the world, and he
He
was
does,
in our
man.
film, and I got to know him when we made 13 Hours because he
Awesome.
played a Delta, which was kind of ironic. I thought it was funny. I gave him shit about it, but Andy. Honestly, you and Andy could be brothers. To be honest with you, you really.
It's
could.
funny. It's funny. Yeah. He's a great dude. And Wes, and by the way, we need to come full circle on Wes, because I'm wearing his hat. Wes is the Beto, Wes, Mikey Sowers, Joey Hahn, a bunch of dudes that I've been able to meet along my journey. It's interesting. I've connected with people outside of the movie industry on much deeper levels than I have with people in the movie industry. I don't know why that is. It's like Wes and I are like brothers, you know, like, and how I met him was he wound up being invited to the Warhorse One premiere.
Okay.
And just out of the blue, like texted me one day on Instagram and was like, man, I'm a huge fan, blah, blah, blah. And I was like, I didn't know who Wes was, and I found out about Rogue, and it came back to a story of a buddy of mine that while I was making Warhorse One, Jamie was this how do I put it, veteran friend of mine who took his life, and I was going to visit him while I was making Warhorse. Prior to that, like a year or two before that, he called me up because he knew I loved Desert Tiger Stripe, and I saw a picture of you, Chris. And
Yeah, I was in Kandahar when I had
yeah,
Kandahar. Yeah,
yeah, and I
that's
actually I brought those as a throwback in my new film. You'll see.
no
me
way. Are you?
Yeah,
Oh my!
yeah.
You're gonna now.
Yeah,
You're
you're
really
gonna
gonna
dig
make
it.
me
So,
cry, dude. Damn, I'm gonna be all.
Oh,
I'm
dude,
gonna be
wait till
all
you see
over
it, man.
the
I'm
place.
really excited. This one is going to be special. Wait till you see this film. I mean, the first one is really special. This whole thing, I think, is just really a gift from God to me, my creator. So Jamie calls me up and says, hey, man, I'm going to this store in Texas. They got a great tiger stripe hat for you. And it's actually now one of my children's hat that they wear all the time. This is another one. But I didn't know what the store was called or who it was. And then years later comes back around that it was Wes's store that he went to and got me that hat. And I remember talking to Wes one day and he's like, oh yeah, you know, I own Rogue America, blah, blah, blah. And I was like, man, it turns out that that's the store and that's the hat. And anyways, a kind of full circle connection. So Wes and I hit it off. We were bros. And I said, hey man, you want to be in the movie? I got a part for you. And he was like, nah, you're shitting me, man. I'm like, absolutely, come on in. So he plays a part in this film.
It's awesome. We
I'm
gotta
bringing
get him on. I've been because
You have
he's
to,
been following
yeah.
us since we're
Yeah.
early on. He seems
No,
like a great dude.
I mean, he really is. He's one of the original public figure kind
Yeah,
of opera. I mean,
yeah,
really,
yeah.
and he's been doing combat. I mean, he trains my knife combative guy for my battle line. That's who he goes and works with is Wes, and you know, Wes goes and whoops his ass for a little bit, and then, but yeah, no, and you know, and Wes is a good dude. I've never heard anything bad. I don't know him personally, but I've never heard anything bad
dude.
about Wes.
You should have him on for sure. Yeah.
Yeah, we definitely will.
We talked about, I wanted to get in that Black Hawk Down. Definitely. We kind of beat that up a little bit. I think the
Okay.
last thing I got you on that one though is, were you thinking anything specifically emotional? I mean, it is, and you're right. We forget that was 20 years ago when the movie was about 20 some years ago, wasn't it?
Yeah. Yep.
When you were doing and playing one of the operators, one of the unit guys, you worked with them, right? From what I understand, I saw a documentary where now the Rangers didn't really work with the Rangers. I know Dale Sizemore very well. I know Floyd, and they said, no, we really didn't mess with the real regiment guys. Colonel McKnight, actually, I know the current. We should have him on too. The real Colonel McKnight, great guy. But you guys did, didn't you? Didn't you guys go and train with the unit guys, or did you not?
I didn't. Some of the guys that played Delta guys did. I think Billy Fick went. I think Nikolai went, Eric Bana went, but
Gotcha.
I was in Los Angeles training anyway. So they knew that I had been around firearms my whole life. So I didn't really have to go get any refresher courses.
Yeah.
I actually, on the day that I kind of, or I usually say it's on the day, but I can't remember, but it was around the same time. And it was funny because this guy was like, hey, you want to go golfing this weekend? And I said, no, I'm not going golfing. I'm going shooting. And he said, well, it'd be much better for your career if you go golfing, like as actors or whatever, you know? And I go, you know, looking back, you know, 20 something years later and all the firearm stuff I do in movies, like, I don't think he was very smart about that one. But I was the only one that had been training with guns. And a funny thing is Harry Humphreys, you know Harry Humphreys?
Oh, yeah, Harry was our guy. He was
Okay.
him and Michael are like this, and
Mhm.
and you know, Kevin Kent, Kevin works with as on Harry's team. Andy was until Andy started doing this knife thing, which he should. He's fucking his edge weapons are. But yeah, Harry's a great guy. Harry's a legend.
Harry, I got a great compliment from Harry when I was in Morocco. So there's imagine, right? This guy's our sort of advisor for all the
Yeah. Military
actors,
advisor. Yep.
gun stuff. And one night in the bar, Harry's wife came into town for the first time, and you had all these actors kind of huddled in this bar in Hilton in Rabat, Morocco. And Harry's like introducing his wife, and then I kind of just had taken a shower or whatever from shooting that day, and I came in, and he sees me and he goes, "Oh, honey, let me introduce you to Johnny Strong, the best weapons guy in Hollywood." And you could see on the faces of all the actors like standing around there, all kind of bummed out, and I took it as a huge compliment coming from Harry, working with everybody and all that kind of stuff. But yeah, for me, that experience, Black Hawk, was extremely special. And I had you were asking me before about how I felt about that.
Yeah.
And I remember, to me, it was like one of the first times, man, where I didn't feel like it was about me. I felt it was more about doing a service to those individuals involved in that event. You know what I mean?
Well, you're becoming part of the brotherhood, is what we call it, man.
Oh, okay.
And that's, I mean, you're trying. I mean, because you're bringing a story to life of guys that sacrifice themselves on the battlefield for real, and you're doing it with respect and not the bravado. You're not trying the bravado, but it's coming across because you're just being you, man.
Yeah.
And that's, that will always resonate with me, because I saw that when I was young, and that made me want to continue to do what I did, and go to the Rangers, go back to Ranger Battalion, and then whatever, then all the rest of stuff that happened. But yeah, I know and you got young Harry Humphreys too. We got, I'm not saying old Harry Humphreys. I think he probably is a lot softer when we got him than when you got him, because he was a
tough.
fighter.
Yeah, man. Yeah, he was tough on people, man. When they would fuck things up or whatever, or not make it look proper, he was on top of it, And it was cool because for me, it was never really like he never pulled me aside and was like, "You doing this wrong" or whatever. He would just be like, "Yeah, Johnny knows what he's doing. Like, let Johnny do what he's doing." You know what I mean? And that was, it kind of gave me the reassurance, like, all right, I'm just gonna keep doing what I'm doing,
Well, you look good. It looks. How did you get in the weapon stuff before that, though? We never really touched on that. You already had did you grow up with it? Did you? And
my dad was he would do competition, like the original Steel Challenge stuff that they were doing in California.
Yep.
Out of Piru and stuff. He was a part of that. And Mike Dalton was, and my dad were like the two guys that kind of taught me how to run pistols. And so I'd been around that my whole life. When I was 5 years old, my birthday present was a Ruger Chipmunk 22 rifle. So, and in California it's different, a lot of people aren't raised like that in California, but my dad was like kind of an old kind of.
It depends where in California too, though, right?
Yeah,
because
true.
I think when people hear California, they think of LA, and it's just like I live in New York, and people think of Midtown Manhattan. And
Manhattan,
it's like upstate New York is not anything
it's totally
like
different.
Here, so,
Yeah. But yeah, so I grew up around guns and training, and in all honesty, man, when I was growing up, I wanted to be a SEAL. Like that was,
yeah.
Like to me, it was like, I was an artist, and I think there is a connection or a correlation between artistry and being a warrior. I think.
Oh no, it definitely is.
You know what I mean?
Rangers I know write poetry. I mean,
Yeah.
there's some poetry. I love to draw, even though I knew it. I love to draw. There is artistry in there, man.
I think there's an
Definitely.
artistry and that connection for me. And I remember growing up, like I was always like, yeah, I want to do that. My path just kind of, and that's the thing, is I call it the current, right? You could fight the current all you want, but eventually the current's going to take you where it's going to take you, So, so my journey, brought me into the filmmaking world. And, but it was funny. There was a period of time where I would invite friends over to train in my backyard in the pool with weights and all this kind of shit, because I'm way more into that. Most of the time I spend when I'm not making movies is training, like running guns, going up into the mountains and doing that kind of stuff. So, yeah, that's how I got into it. My dad got me into it, and I just love it. For me, I don't know if it's a true level of autism, but I have this autistic perfection in my mind, where when whatever I'm doing, right? If it's a scene, right? I want it to be perfect. I want it to feel perfect. When I'm doing a drill, going primary to secondary or whatever it might be, I want that to be perfect. And the crazy thing is a lot of times, and you can ask a lot of people I work with, is the first take I do is usually as pretty close to perfect as it's going to be.
Yeah.
But I still have this thing, I could get it better, or I could do it better, and I'll go 8 more takes, and it's still that first take was like just perfect,
So does
Yeah.
somebody like, so who tells you to knock it the fuck off, dude? You got, I mean, there's gotta
Me.
be, that's what I was gonna say.
I finally go, all right, fuck, I got it,
We got,
Yeah.
But that's the thing about, there is no such thing as perfection, right?
no,
Other than
there isn't.
God's creation. But there is, my mind wants to get it as close to perfect as it can be. You know what I mean?
And you're always striving for that. And that's an operator mentality as well. It is perfection, even though you're never going to get us. So if you would have went to the golf route, you would probably be playing in the PGA right now, because you would be trying to get a hole in one. And
Every stroke.
Golf and shooting. I tell guys when I do my teaching, I say, guys, golf and shooting are the same thing. You're trying to get a hole in one every time. You're trying to keyhole it every time. It will never happen. But that's what we're striving for throughout
Every
the
time.
entire day. And
Even jujitsu. Jiu-jitsu is one of those things I was explaining. So a good friend of mine has a jiu-jitsu school in California, Subconscious Jiu-Jitsu, my buddy Bernie, and I've known him for over 20 years. And I was trying to explain how I feel about movie making and about acting and art, and my creation is like in the terms of jiu-jitsu is like, if you're going to roll with somebody, right, when you slap hands, the goal should be to have a perfect roll. And if you achieve that, if you achieve perfection, there's no reason to do it again. There's no reason to have another roll because it's perfect. But there is no perfection. And every time you do it, it should be to be better than you were yesterday,
Yeah. So when I introduced
Exactly.
you on the podcast and it goes into all this, I said
Yeah.
that you're basically a jack of all trades, and you truly are, because for people who don't know your background, as I said, they do know you from Black Hawk Down, Fast and the Furious. But for people who don't know, it's not like you're a guy who dabbles in martial arts or who dabbles in music. You have written, what is it, 9 albums? You've
Yeah.
had 2 major label deals with Atlantic Records and RCA. So I'm wondering, like, as a kid, you talked about that you wanted to be a Navy SEAL. Would you say the dream was more musician, martial artist, actor, or even from that young age where you're like, I want to do it all?
I've said this in the past. So my mother never said you can be anything you want. She said you could be everything you want, and to me, I have, there are things that I can readily be upfront and say, I have no idea how to fix a car. Man, if a car breaks down, that fucking thing is dead.
Call
and
AAA, man.
we need to find somebody to come fix it. It's not me that's going to do it. But there are things that I've discovered that I have an ability for. Some of those things are martial arts and art, music, self-expression. But also on the other side of that too is I have a fondness for suffering, to describe it better is like to find my limits as a human being, through suffering and through pressure to become better at things. Even, like if you look at my job as a filmmaker, to be a director is a mountain of work. It's a monument unto itself in a movie. to be the lead actor in a movie is a monument to itself and a mountain of work. I choose to do like 10 or 15 different things in a movie that are all individually their own amount of suffering. Ask a director like the level of like nightmare that trying to manage a whole movie as just being a director. And a lot of these guys have assistant directors and assistants to the director, that kind of stuff. I don't have any of that kind of stuff. So, but to me, the challenge, man, I look for it every day. I want to look up at that mountain, and if it's easy to climb, it really wasn't worth it. You know, I want to find those mountains that are brutal. That's the thing about Everest, which is so kind of inspiring, and you know, objectively looking at it, is like that mountain. Some people have conquered it, and some people have been conquered by it. You know, and I love that aspect about my life and my journey, whether it be through martial arts or music or filmmaking or whatever it might be. It's like the culmination of self-expression and suffering at the same time.
So you never feel like you're spreading yourself too thin though, because that's a lot of stuff you're taking on, and or is that what, when you say suffering, when you spread yourself thin, I've done that before, you do suffer because you're always.
I think that's what, Chris, I mean, at the end of the day, we have this little window here, right? You want to see what you're made of when you're here. I want to find where I break. I want to find where I break, and then I want to push that barrier. I want to push it further, so the next time I won't break there, it'll take even more to break me, you know, that kind of thing.
So you know what I'm curious about?
I know exactly what you mean. I do.
Hey guys, hope you're enjoying this interview with Johnny Strong. Johnny Strong is definitely a guy who is no stranger to shooting, as you hear about pretty much at the beginning of the interview. He talks about he grew up a shooter. So if you are a shooter, you want to make sure you're shooting with the best ammo out there. I remember on the episode with Matt Waters, you talked about how guys could damage guns if they're putting crappy ammo in there, if they're not shooting with the right ammo. So check them out. Fort Scott Munitions is a manufacturer of multi-federal patented solid copper and brass CNC spun ammunition. It's designed to tumble upon impact in soft tissue, leaving devastating wound channels for faster bleed out and quicker incapacitation. This ammunition was originally developed to innovate and improve on the standard of military-grade ammunition design. It was found that not only did the TUI ammunition outperform competitors in the self-defense industry, but it quickly became apparent that it would be a top contender for hunters alike. With the ammunition being CNC spun, the tolerances are some of the tightest on the market, ensuring that you receive the same results with each pull of the trigger. Fort Scott Munitions is available throughout privately owned businesses in all 50 states, but if you go to FSM.com, you're going to get the best deal through us when you use the promo code BATTLELINE. That gets you 15% off all the ammo on the site. Stuff like these pretty cool tins here. I always show you this one, but they are, and my lighting is screwing this up. But if I guess if I put it over here, there we go.
Badass tins, yeah.
But they always have new designs that you can check out on there at FSM.com. So yeah, promo code BATTLELINE. Fort Scott Munitions is a proud supporter of Chris Peranto, Battleline Tactical, and the Battleline podcast. Now, we always talk about Photonis Defense, the best night vision out there. Before we get into what Photonis is all about, every year pretty much you do a night vision course with Phil Otto.
With me and Phil. Phil is a GRS operator with me, and he works at Photonis Defense. He's been on the show.
And one of the most popular episodes we've ever had on the show, the first one. Yeah.
He's amazing. But we always have a good time out there. It's November 2nd and 3rd. Or actually, November 2nd. I'm sorry, just November 2nd.
One-day course.
Yep. So, guys, go ahead. We don't take too many signups for that one because we have to maintain control. It's just safety. And with night vision, I can't always see the experience that you have. But if you're going to come out, we're going to teach you some really good tactics out there with night vision and your infrared lasers. So come on out. It'll be me and Phil. And then we'll also have, Jeremy Mitchell will be out there with Battleline instructor. And we just have a good time. But you get really good training. And it's that time of year out here in the Midwest in the fall before it starts to get cold is just beautiful. So it's just wonderful time. And we even bring some s'mores out, guys. At the end of the day, I'll have some s'mores, but we'll also have some Tano vodka out there. We just sit around by the fire and hang out. So it's just a wonderful, wonderful therapeutic time, but you get some great night vision training. And I'm gonna show you how do some high ready stuff with that night vision and infrared lasers, and then you're gonna get a good workout there. So November 2nd, and then we also have another course at Defender Outdoors, which we always do at the end of the year, right before Thanksgiving, November 16th and 17th. So that's in Fort Worth. If you want to come down there for a pistol course, plus we'll have books, and the night before and Friday, myself and Ben Morgan will be doing a bottle signing there as well, a Tano Vodka bottle signing in Fort Worth. So we've got those two things coming up at the end of the year for Battle Line and Tano Vodka. Go to ChrisTanoParano.com if you forget all that, and you can check it out on the website.
Yeah, absolutely. It's all there. So back to what we were saying though with the night vision, since that'll be a major part of the course, whether you're going to that course or you're not going to that course, now you can have the superpower to see in the dark with the Viper Binocular Night Vision System by Photonis Defense, the global leader in night vision solutions, providing more high quality night vision capabilities than anyone. Military, law enforcement, and public safety end users utilize Photonis Defense solutions to give them the edge at night in tactical situations and rescue operations. Hunters, shooters, boaters, and enthusiasts can rely on the Photonis Defense Viper Binocular to become masters of darkness. The new Viper Binocular system carries the same features and benefits as the Photonis Defense Viper Monocular with a ruggedized body and harnesses the power of the Echo Intensifier tubes, giving you sharper images, reduced halo, and industry-leading ultra-fast auto-gating across the range of dynamic operating conditions. So check that all out at PhotonisDefense.com for more information, or look for Photonis Defense product options from your night vision dealer, PhotonisDefense.com. With that, let's get right back to this interview with Johnny Strong. I
Exactly.
mentioned your music and your band Operator, and the fact that you do balance all this stuff at once. I'm wondering, was there ever like any long tours Operator did where you were hitting the road and you thought that like this is going to be it? Because I just, interviewing touring musicians, that becomes everything. It's like you can't shoot a movie while you're on the road on a 6-month tour or something like that. So any like road stories with Operator, or where you thought that that would be what you were doing over
And
all the
and,
stuff
and
you're doing
we're
now?
X-rated. We already I cussed at the beginning of the show, so we've already
Wow.
been demonetized, dude. So don't
No,
don't
no,
even
no,
worry.
because we didn't do the intro yet.
Yeah, road stories, man. Let's break that up into two sections. Is the first one is like the question I'm wondering, did I think that was going to be it for me, is touring with the
Yeah,
band?
because I just think of like we've had Corey Taylor on the show,
Yeah.
right? And Slipknot, like right now, they're on the road for God knows how many months. You can't shoot a movie while you're doing that, and then that becomes your entire life.
And like, and even it was Edsel Dope, where that's what he does, and he's with 3 different bands, but that's what he does, and he's extremely smart individual. I'm saying again, he reminds me of you, just the way he talks, he's focused, but yeah, I agree at the end. When did you like, what, this is kind of
Well,
my
no, that's
side
not my
gig.
question. My question was, did you ever think that that's what you were going to be doing?
Gotcha.
And it was like, I
No,
can't shoot movies if I do this.
no. To me, I don't like the concept of limiting yourself. Some people, and I forget who it was. I was watching this interview one time when somebody says, pick one thing and then be the best at it in your life, to me, I found that when I dive into projects, whatever it might be, like earlier in my career, it was never my final form. That was like cultivating what I would need in my journey to eventually get to my final form, if that makes sense, right?
Mm.
So, for instance, you can have like Jerry Miculich. I think that's how you pronounce it.
Miklik,
Yeah.
Jerry Miklik. Yeah.
Man, this guy can
Yeah.
run a pistol like nobody's business, right? To me, I don't know if, like, for me, it's music in my project Operator, right? So there was no band to begin with. It was just me. After I did Black Hawk Down, I came back to the States, and I started writing a record. And I recorded an entire record, and I didn't know what to call it because there was no band. So, and when I did Black Hawk, one of the titles that was going around for the Delta guys was operator.
Yeah.
And so I thought, man, that's cool, because prior to that, nobody was really using that term in you know, the lexicon of like cool guys, you know. Operator's like this secret thing. Like, what the fuck's an operator? It's like a fucking telephone operator or whatever.
True.
So I was like, yeah, I'm going to call it operator. And one of the things that in my past that I've had, and my girl has been on my ass about this for years, is I never took credit for things. I would often play an entire record. We were talking about Dave Grohl and the drums and stuff. I would play an entire record, and then I would hire guitar players, and then I would kind of present it like they played it, like they were the guitar player, or this bass player with the bass player, or the drummer is the drummer, whatever.
Which is so common. People don't realize.
Well, the thing is there are certain artists, right? Prince was a guy that would do everything. Trent Reznor was a guy that would do everything. There's a lot of guys that would do a lot of the stuff, and then they present it as a band, you know, Nine Inch Nails.
Yeah, that's what yeah, there's a lot of that.
So for me, I would kind of like relinquish that credit and sort of kind of like just allow that, not really have that as like a thing of like, oh, I did that. And that's been throughout my life as a person. And then eventually, you know, like a few years ago when I did Warhorse, my girl was like, you got to just take credit for it.
Yeah.
You got to stop allowing people to sort of, you know, show up on the stage and pretend they did it. You're doing it. You're suffering for it. Tell the fucking world you're doing it, you know?
Sure.
And that's difficult for me, man. I don't want a pat on the back for anything. Like even like a podcast, like, I mean, if you guys called me up and said, hey dude, let's just go hang out. Like, I don't really have anything to promote being on the podcast, you know, like if you
hopefully the next Warhorse, whatever.
Yeah, sure. I mean, that's awesome, you know, but at the end of the day, I'm not a salesman, you know. I create art because my creator has left this spark inside of me that it is like an antenna and it filters through me, and I get to create that. To me, that's the most like, it's like the joy of looking in my children's eyes, you know? So, but I'm not a salesman. There's dudes out there like, here's my energy drink. Fucking watch my, you know, disposable.
Here's my vodka.
Netflix,
I'm just taking a shot at Chris now.
No, you got it's hard to get over yourself. I hate that. But it's taken me it's been 8-9 years since the book came out, and I fought that. It is. You feel like a douchebag. Yeah,
well, that's the thing is man, you know, okay, so there you go. That's the thing. It's like, I don't want to be like, I always say, it's like, let my producers, let them promote whatever, or the distributors or whatever for the movie. I want the joy of creating it. Yeah. Like that joy, like to have, I wish I could explain to people the joy of being given a vision from God, and then having the ability to manifest that into something that, like, when I watch Warhorse, right? I kind of made the comparison. I told people, like, it's like being able to climb Everest just by pressing play. It's like reliving that moment, you know? And this process, man, filmmaking is a tough deal. Not as tough as going to war. Maybe Tom Cruise.
War's yeah, I know. War's easy. You just got to make sure that you stay alive. I mean, that's a simple part of.
Try your best.
Just make sure you get back. It's just
well, no, I feel that way sometimes making a film, man. I'm like, man, dude, it's been crazy. But the concept there for me is like, is that gift to make that, to create that. And I'm not taking credit for it. Like, I'm creating it. It's like,
God, yeah. Well, what you're saying actually is the same thing that was said to me. I interviewed, Chris wasn't on the show, but I interviewed DJ Kubert, who's like one of the most renowned DJs. The guy's been doing it since the 80s. And he was saying, I try not to be that guy who says, I created this, I invented this. He's like, no, it's all from God kind of speaking to me in my art form that I do. But what you were saying before about taking credit for things, I think is so true. I mean, Chris kind of knows, and the listeners know, I'm more of a music guy than knowing movies. But oftentimes people will say, you know, when bands break up, especially, why do these two guys take credit for all the songs? Why do they have all the songwriting credits? Why can't they just split it among these four guys or five guys? And it's
Yeah.
like, no, if this guy was just in the studio, like eating a sandwich and then he drummed on the track, he
No.
doesn't deserve writing credits. Like a guy I interviewed who I'm a huge fan of is Darren Miller from the band CKY. And CKY was one of those bands. Darren Miller wrote every song, he sang every song, he played guitar on every song. And now there's a band touring as CKY that he's not in. And it's like, it's crazy to me when it was his creation, but he didn't
Yeah.
trademark the name. So it's like, in hindsight, yeah, you got to take credit. You got to trademark the name if it's something you created, because there will be people coming to take credit for what you did and what you
Sure.
invented.
Sure. And you know, it's weird. There's just some kind of thing in my personality that I didn't give a fuck if people knew it was me doing these things. I didn't really care. I would even like, I felt more comfortable hiding behind somebody else doing it. In that concept of like, because I'm not a social guy. I'm not like, you know, I don't want to be the center of attention, man. One of the most stressful, anxiety inducing situations for me is when I premiered the film and I had to be there as the star, director, and writer of the movie. I'm going, man, the type of anxiety that I feel is just, if I could sit there in the movie theater by myself and watch it, man, I would love to do that. But I find it strange that there are people out there that actually love that.
They feed
But,
off it. They need
man,
it.
I
it's
don't
kinda
understand that, man. It creeps me out, man. I'm like, you know, it's like, man, it's a strange thing. But on the music side of the thing, man, I love, and most of my records, I'm playing everything on the record, and there are
Yeah.
still tons of people in the world that think it's a band, and that's fine. I usually, nowadays more, I try to be more vocal about saying it's not a band. It's like, for a period of time, I hired people to go on tour so I could play, because I can't play all the instruments at once,
Sure.
But yeah, the concept of, the credit and songwriting and stuff like that, like, to me, it's one of those things, like, I'm just blessed to have this life. Man, I am so fortunate. I can't even, I mean, I couldn't even imagine. It's like winning the fucking lottery, just by being born who I am. It's the most special thing, and I'm so fucking grateful. Holy
and
shit.
it comes through, right? Because you give back. You're always giving back. I that's why I reached after I saw Warhorse. Like, dude, man, that hit me hard, because you can tell I can speak just for me. I can't speak for all the other veterans and all the other guys that were in the community out there, but it helped me get through something. And it was during 9/11 too. I was watching that too. And that hit me hard this year. It always, every year it gets a little worse, but it's like, man, that relationship with that little girl got me through that 9/11. And so you're being blessed putting on this earth. Yeah, you feel because you're giving back to people you don't even know. Like me. I mean, you know me now, but I guarantee there's other guys like me that are out there going, man, you just saved my life. Just with the movie, you saved my life because of the way you, and it wasn't the bravado. It's cool at the end when you're on, when they're coming, the Cure-F's coming to get you and they're online. That's badass. I'm like,
Yeah.
okay, that reminds me of the badass shit. But
well, you know what that is, right? So that's Chris, that's there's the material side of that, right? Which is the cavalry coming to the rescue.
Cavalry coming to rescue. Yep.
But there's the metaphorical side of that, where we want to have the hope that the day will be saved.
Well, the happy endings. And that's how in the military we were the Cure-F that came to the rescue, and that's why it resonates with me, is because I remember being that Cure-F trying to come help, and it even made
on the
even
cool
more
side
powerful.
of that, Chris. On the cool side, right? Let's just talk about the facade of the material side of, like, man, the badasses showed up, right? The cavalry comes to the rescue, but at the end of the day, right, on just the spiritual side, on the human side of, like, to be the saviors. Man, that is
Yeah.
so special.
It
Like
is.
to have individuals that are in need of saving and having dudes that are like,
Let's go.
let's
I'm going.
go.
Yeah.
It's time to answer the call of action. That's a special thing, man. And
It
that's
is.
like, they're blessed to have you. You know what I mean?
Well, and we're blessed to have yourself, and that's why I resonate well with Pablo in the way in our because it reminds me of the bad things, but that's okay. I want those bad things. I need to feel those, but it reminds me of the good things as well, and the brotherhood that you see, that love you talk about, which comes through. But and I was going to get to this on Warhorse, but I'll ask you in a second.
Okay.
The other part was, and I said this to you in an email as well. I said, man, you portrayed the Taliban, and some of them were scared. And that's the truth, man. And there are a lot of like the head guy, bloodthirst. There are those guys out there, bloodthirsty, who cut your
sure.
nuts off and feed them to you. But there are some young that don't. They're shitting their pants too. And I love that you got that in the movie as well, especially during that last scene where they're coming to rescue, and you got the one young guy that's
Freaking out. I think, at least for me, right, as a storyteller, there's that old adage, right? Is one man's terrorist is another man's freedom fighter, right?
yeah,
That kind
yeah,
of thing.
it's true.
If you look at Warhorse and what I did with certain aspects of it, and if you and I were sitting there, I could point out, like, see, this is one of those things. Is it's they're both doing the same thing on both sides for different reasons. It's not like these are robots. One day I'm sure we'll be fighting robots.
We're
I
getting
mean,
there,
right
yeah.
now,
Terminator
people are fighting,
EX.
fighting drones right now. Crazy. But on the human scale of this, right? The bad guys, there are some of them, I'm sure, that are just shitbags, but the bad guys don't think they're the bad guys. The
No.
good guys don't think they're the bad guys, vice versa, and I wanted to show a little level of that, where I was able to give the enemy, quote unquote, right, the bad guys, some sort of depth, and not just make them monsters, because at the end of the day, a lot of guys I've talked to that have been in the GWAT, some of them are like, yeah, man. Rob O'Neill was a guy I was talking to.
Rob's a good dude. Rob's a good friend. He's a good dude.
And he was like talking about a situation where he kicked in a door for a raid, and a dude's in bed with his wife.
Yeah.
And there's a gun on the nightstand, and the guy jumped for the gun, and Rob had to dump him. And if you think about it, right, for us, Chris, right, if we were sitting here as Americans in our bed at night, and China rolled in and decided to they were gonna give their communist freedom to America, whatever, man, you and I and a lot of other dudes I know would be putting screws to those motherfuckers.
I got a gun right next to my bed.
Yeah, exactly.
But I understand. He's right. That you would. That's always my next question was where did you get that from? Because that's not something that is in Hollywood. That the bad guys are the bad guys, and the terrorists. If you have not a good military advisor or an actor that has been seasoned around operators, they would know to put that in there.
I think a lot of stuff I do, Chris, for what and this is the start of my filmmaking career, Warhorse One. Prior to that, I did. My career has been like, when I was doing huge Hollywood stuff, Black Hawk Down and Fast and Furious and stuff like that. For me, the window to do what I'm doing now as a filmmaker, directing and starring and all that kind of stuff, man, the opportunity to be able to do that in Hollywood is very slim. I would say if I were to gamble, that door would have never been open for me unless I took the path I took, which was to step aside from doing the big budget Hollywood stuff to start starring in the more independent action films.
Yep.
And then from that parlay that into making my own films. And that's the way I did it. And that's where I am now. And I'm really sort of in the start of my filmmaking career, Warhorse One being the first film. And Hollywood wouldn't allow me to make Warhorse One. They wouldn't allow that to happen. You know, and even that, there's things that I wanted to present in that, which Warhorse One, at the end of the day, is an anti-war film. I always say this is, there's the three most terrible things on the planet, right? Disease, famine, and war, right? At the end of the day, if we could remove all those fucking things, disease, famine, and war, I think life on Earth might be, and maybe the corrupt politicians, maybe do that first. I think life on Earth would be much better, right? If people weren't starving, if people weren't dying from disease, or
Well, if we
getting blown up,
if
right?
we got rid of those three things, we wouldn't need politicians. Half the shit they
Yes, exactly. We can figure it out for ourselves. And maybe that they're part of the problem for famine, disease, and war, you know?
Yep.
But anyway, so within that, a lot of aspects of Warhorse One, I wouldn't have been able to make that film if I tried to make that in Hollywood.
Did you go to like, was it a big movie company like Paramount or MGM, or did you not? You're like, I'm not even going to try because I know they're going to shoot me down.
I know, well, what would happen is they would get involved and the movie wouldn't be what the movie
Wouldn't be
is.
what you got you.
Exactly.
You know,
Yeah.
so the only way I can make that film the way it is by doing it on my own. And that was really what it was. It was one morning I woke up and in my bed, and I said to my girl, I'm making my own movie. I'm tired of waiting for other people to create things for me that I want to do. And really, that was one of the things at the end of the day of shouldering the responsibility. A lot of times, people could get into, well, somebody else will write it, somebody else will do it, somebody else will do this and do that. And finally, at this point in my life, I was like, I have to shoulder it. I've got to do it, and I'm going to do it myself. And you know, the result, man, has been just so amazing. And really, the impetus of that film was the relationship with my daughter. I had a profound moment with her one day where prior to this moment, you know, they're like a little potato that the mother is suckling and taking care of and this kind of thing, you know. And then right around 2 years old, her and I were in my kitchen, and I was making her breakfast, sausage and eggs. And I had this moment where I looked into her eyes and I connected with her. And the feeling, I can't even describe it. It was like eternity is the only word I can fucking describe this. It was eternity, like this epigenetic, like the end of Space Odyssey 2001, where the astronaut is like discovering the meaning of life.
Yep.
And I was like, oh my God, how do I tell that story? How do I make a movie of that? Because that's what I want to do. And so I created the concept of who a man is before that moment and who he becomes after that moment.
After a moment.
And that's Warhorse One.
And that's
awesome.
the little girl what you had in the I forget her name. I knew it. And my memory's gone to shit. But
Athena Turner.
Athena,
Athena Turner
yeah,
is the young actress. Yeah.
So that wasn't, I thought, first of all, I thought when I first saw it, before I saw the credits, I thought that was your daughter. I'll be because the
A
way
lot
you
of people
guys
do, yeah.
yeah, the way you connected. But is that the end of the movie? Is that where you got that last scene where you're driving in to me, it's the Midwest. There's cornfield. This is where I live. I live in the Midwest.
Yeah.
Old truck. So you got, I mean, is that where that came from? Because that is more honest and truthful than even all the combat and the war that goes on. It's just coming home and the dog getting out. You know, I remember my dog getting out and my little girl. Is that is that where you really pulled that from just remembering looking in your eyes of your girl?
So the funny thing, right, is like that that sequence, the end of that. So in filmmaking, for if you know it, then I'm just gonna reiterate it. But if you don't, it's I think it's a French word called denouement, and it's how you wrap up a movie. like sort of like the ending, the bow on the movie, right? That was the thing that that last like 5 minutes of the movie is my favorite part of the movie.
It is. That's mine. Yes, mine too. Yeah, it is.
And because, and originally, when I was doing it, when I wrote that in the film, I had other people involved in the film that were like, man, I don't know about that. That part of the movie, blah, blah, blah. It should just end with the SEALs rescuing the guy and blah, blah, blah. And that's really, that last 5 minutes embodies the whole movie. In fact, sometimes my girl and I will just play the last 5 minutes of the movie just to feel that thing, that magic,
Were the guys advising you to not have it? Were they
military?
Yeah. Were they military guys?
No, it wasn't military guys. It wasn't military guys.
That's why, man. That's because they
yes,
don't,
exactly.
They don't
but see,
know.
but what that is really what that is that's like the American dream. That last 5 minutes. That's we don't. That's why we would go to war, right? Is to protect that. That's the concept, right? So, and really, a lot of times, I think the propaganda and the stuff that gets us into wars is people knowing that that's what we're trying to preserve, is that American dream, and that the piece of having a family. You know what I mean? Like that, the piece of being a father or a mother or whatever, and that was a very special thing. It's like the end of that movie is just like, if there's something that somebody was like, well, what's Johnny Strong about? Watch the last 5 minutes of Warhorse 1, and
that's the beautiful thing, that you get to make your own movie and you don't have to listen to those people if your idea overrides them. That like, no, this has to be in the movie. As you said, if someone else was in charge of the film, then they could have taken out the best part.
Oh, they would have killed it. They would have killed it.
I want to make sure that I get to this. Obviously, this is not a film that you created, but it was a very special film that you were a part of, Fast and the Furious. So I'm just wondering, when you were a part of that film, I mean, this is a film that has changed culture. I don't think that's an overstatement. And it's also a film series that has outlasted just about any film series. When that movie wrapped up, before it hit the theaters and everything, did you say this is going to be something special, or did you think it'd just be a cool summer racing movie?
No, anyone involved would be lying if they said they knew what it was going to do. Okay. Like if Vin Diesel or anybody said, I know this is going to be the biggest movie in the world, he would have been lying, because at the end of the day, we were all kind of making this movie, Race Cars, which was Point Break for race cars, what were you going to say, Chris? I didn't.
Well, no, it was to me. Seemed I've watched some of the other ones, and now they're just crazy outland. I mean, they're terrible. But that first one was like an more independent type film than it was a big, huge blockbuster.
Yes,
so
it was like this. It was a period of time, right? That right as we were coming into 2000, right, 2001, 2000, where the studio. Universal took basically like sometimes they'll do package movies, so it was kind of like a package movie where they brought in Diesel and Paul Walker and a certain director, and they kind of package this, and it was like I think the budget was around 30 million or something like that.
Wow, that's nothing. Wow.
I mean, yeah, well, at the time, still, I mean, crazy. How could we say that's nothing? I mean, 30 million, holy jeez. Like the budget of my films is like the water budget on those movies, but nobody knew what it was going to be. And I had actually as a kid, young 16-year-old wild man, I would actually race cars in the San Fernando Valley. Like that was a scene back then, but this was prior to all the Japanese cars. Like this was like big blocks like Mustangs, Camaros, Challengers, Roadrunners, like, the whole old school big block stuff. And we would all do that at Tommy's Burgers in San Fernando Valley. And so when this came around, it was like, oh yeah, racing cars, but the cars were so different than when I was doing it. It was like years later, you know. So nobody knew what it was going to be. I during the filming of that, I was really going through some changes in my life. That was actually that movie was one of the catalysts for me not trying to go out for buds and try to be a Navy SEAL. That was, I was going through a divorce at the time, prior to
And you were
that movie.
young. You were pretty
Yeah, I
young.
was a young man. And that, man, man, it's crazy. And, people say that a lot. It's like, oh man, I'd be a SEAL. Man, that was what I wanted to do. Like, that was my thing. And it's kind of strange that it turned out that now I make movies about being a SEAL and stuff like that. And
Was it just because the movie took off, you were like, holy shit, I'm going to be a big name actor?
it was, yeah, well, I don't know if it was that as much as it was like literally like the dominoes falling in that
Yeah.
direction. It was like going through this divorce I was going through, and my life kind of changing. I did a film called Get Carter with Mickey Rourke and Sylvester
Yeah.
Stallone. And right after that, I was like, you know what? I don't know if I want to do movies. I don't know what I want to do. I think I want to go join the SEALs. I want to do this or whatever. And then I got a phone call saying, hey, go to Universal. There's a meeting for this race car movie. And it was called Red Line at the time. That was the original title of the film. And I went, and the part was for a young black kid, I think, the part of Leon. That's the way it was written or something like that. And I remember going in an audition. I really didn't give a fuck, to be honest with you. I was just like, whatever. And I had a tattoo appointment that night in Hollywood. So I stopped by, did this audition, then went and got tattooed. Ended up getting the job. And then it just sort of like kind of snowballed from there right after that. And the crazy thing, and listen to this, this is how I know. So Warhorse one of the things I brought into that picture from in my personal life is something called, I don't know if things happen for a reason, if it's fate, destiny, or the hand of God. Okay. So there's been a driving force in my life. I don't know what it is. I'd be a liar if I told you I knew exactly what it was, and I think anyone would be a liar if they told you that they knew exactly what it was. But I call it fate, destiny, or the hand of God, right? So on the set of the Fast and Furious, listen to, so prior to that, right? Let's go, I think a year or two before that, maybe even 3 years. I don't know. It was like, I forget timeline wise. There was an audition I got called in for a film called Pearl Harbor.
The Michael Bay, Ben Affleck, Josh Hartnett.
So the part was for Josh Hartnett's part, right?
Okay.
And I remember I went in, and the casting woman, Bonnie Timmerman, casting director, probably one of the best in Hollywood, if not the best. She was a fan of mine, and I was a fan of hers, and she called me in for that movie. And I went in and I sat in her office, and after I read it, I said to her, Bonnie, I don't really like the material. I think it's like Titanic, but with a World War II wrapping on it. I wasn't a fan of it. Okay.
Yeah.
And I said, but at the same time, like, I'll be honest and say, but if I'm going to do it, I want this other role. And that was the Ben Affleck role. And she's like, you can't do that. Ben Affleck's playing this part. And this is before they cast Josh. And I said, well, I don't know. And she's like, come with me. She takes me downstairs at Jerry's place in Santa Monica and shows me this huge, like, miniature Pearl Harbor thing that they had built. I mean, unbelievable, with all the battleships and all that kind of shit. It was fucking awesome. And I was like, this is really fucking cool, but I'm not interested. And she goes, Johnny, you're the only person in Hollywood that doesn't want to be in this movie. You're the only person.
That takes balls. It does.
That I'm
you're
trying
coming
to
up in your
convince.
career and you're like, I don't want to do it. Yeah.
And I was a strange guy like that. Like, if I didn't connect and feel something, the spiritual side of me was like, nah, don't do it. Like, walk away from this. There was a little bit of my ego that still existed in there that was like, well, but if I can have this role, I might be able to do something cool with it, and that this will come full circle on choosing roles. Listen to this. This is crazy, for Black Hawk Down. So, and if I ramble too much, just tell me shut the fuck
No,
up.
go
I
for it.
ramble all the
This
fucking
is
time,
This is
dude.
the most
This is-
fascinating part
yeah.
of the show, I feel like.
Okay,
I
okay,
love
so
it.
listen. Okay, so fate, destiny, hand of God. So she says to me at the end of the meeting, okay, Johnny, you're the only one that doesn't want to do this. I've got a project coming up that you would be really right for. It's with Ridley Scott, but it's not going to happen for a while. I'll let you know. Okay. And I said, all right, love you, blah, 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 kiss, hug, bye. And I left. Totally forgot about the whole fucking thing, right? Went on to do Fast and Furious, blah, blah, blah. On the set of Fast and Furious, I'm shooting in Hemet, California, and we're at this like old airport or something like that, doing car racing shit. And I'm walking back to my trailer, and Vin Diesel is sitting there with his shirt off, eating his lunch outside of his trailer. And he's got a script in his hand. And as I'm walking by, he goes, "Hey, Johnny, you'd be really right for this project." And I go, "What is it?" And he goes, "It's a war movie. It's called Black Hawk Down. You'd be great for one of the parts in this." And I go, "Oh, cool, man, cool." And then because we had some, I don't want to talk about it on podcast, but anyways, I'm walking back to my trailer and I'm thinking, Black Hawk Down, man, that sounds cool. War movie. I'm like, I'm fucking into that. So I fucking get on the phone. I'm like calling my fucking manager. I'm like, hey, what's going on with this? Da, 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 da.
And you didn't know, Bonnie, that's what you had no idea. Oh,
No
wow,
fucking
yeah.
idea.
Wow.
So, and I'm going to, man, this is going to connect in such a fucking crazy way. So imagine all the projects in Hollywood he could have fucking said that about, right?
Yeah.
All the scripts, and he's an upcoming guy, CAA, I think at the time, and fucking like, he was being groomed to be this guy, right? That's the movie he says to me, right? Which makes me pick up the fucking phone and call my manager and say, hey, there's a war movie, Black Hawk Down, check it out. Let me know what's going on. They get back to me and they say, oh, Bonnie's casting that. And she's already planning on bringing you in. And I'm like, fucking great. Now, stop that timeline for a second. Go back like maybe a year or two earlier, okay? I'm in my living room working out with this new weight vest I bought, doing pull-ups because I want to fucking be a Navy SEAL. Okay. And I remember my buddy Chris Lissandro, Street Sports Jiu-Jitsu, my brother, my man, I love this dude. He's the guy, I'm his first black belt. One day he's like, dude, I got this book. It's Navy SEAL workout. And it's these two like fucking Navy SEALs on the front of this fucking magazine that we got at Big Five Sporting Goods. And it's all about push-ups, pull-ups, dips, you know, that kind of thing, pyramid pull-ups and shit. So I'm doing it. I'm at my house and I'm doing this with a weight vest and it's beating my ass, right? I get brand new workout equipment. I'm like, fuck it, let's go. And it's just kicking my ass. In the background, there's a History Channel TV show on, okay? And it's called Deadliest Missions or something like that. And I'm not really paying that much attention. It's just on in the background while I'm doing my workout. And all of a sudden, one of the episodes, it was like they were just doing back-to-back episodes. One of the episodes, they go into about 2 Delta snipers that are protecting a downed helicopter until their death. I shit you not. I'm in a fucking middle of a workout, man, and tears start fucking streaming down my face as I'm listening to this. And the fucking first thought that goes through my mind is, I'm going to fucking do that. I'm going to show that to the world. Anyone that would hear me say that would go, you're full of shit. I swear on my fucking life. It was the first fucking thing that it was like a lightning bolt from fucking God, man. Was like, I can show the world that moment. The weirdest thing. Okay, now
Crazy.
cut. Hold on.
No,
That's
No, this is
now
amazing.
cut.
Keep
So
going.
now, so now you fast forward, right? Diesel says, I'm fucking, here's the war movie, you know? They called me, said, Bonnie's already planning. This is the same project she told me about for fucking Pearl
And
Harbor.
but you haven't connected. There's no dots to connect yet, right?
Oh,
You-
no,
I-
wait,
no,
just
no.
wait. I haven't connected any dots, right? So then they send me the breakdown, okay? They send me this breakdown, and it's a breakdown, and it's like 14 different Rangers, and a couple Delta guys. I had never really thought, I never knew what the term Delta other than Chuck Norris movie or whatever. the fuck.
It's true. Well, at that time, that's all.
That was it.
Really,
Like,
that was it. Yeah, yeah,
it
yeah.
was like
yeah.
super undercover shit. So, so I'm like, Delta. Oh, Delta sounds cool, right? I read the Rangers and it was dope. You know, I know.
Hey,
former
you're
Ranger,
to
come
knock,
on.
no, you don't have to knock
You
it,
know,
man.
Rangers lead the way, brother.
All the
Okay?
way, man.
Yeah. Right. So, but I go Delta. I go, man, that's more my speed, right? And so I call my manager and I say, hey, these are the roles, and he said, you know, they're bringing you in, but you're only going to read one of the Ranger roles. They're doing like, and this is the way I cast movies now too, is they give you one scene for multiple different characters of that they're casting, and you just read one scene.
Who are they?
Oh.
Which Ranger? What do you remember?
So
who it was?
I'm gonna space on the name, which is horrible of me, but
Who
the young Ranger who was dying from the femoral artery wound.
Oh, Jamie Smith.
Jamie.
Yeah,
Yes.
yeah, yeah.
Okay.
yeah.
So it's the Jamie scene where he's sitting there saying, "Tell my mama I did good." You know,
Yeah, yeah.
it's a brutal.
Well, no,
dramatic
we
scene,
we
tragic.
learned a lot from that because we didn't know where to put tourniquets
deal with that wound.
because
Yeah.
the femoral, that was the one, and that gets hammered at Ranger. I don't mean to cut you off, man, but
Oh, go ahead.
that gets hammered at Ranger Battalion of femoral arteries, how to do femoral arteries. After that incident, our whole TCCC
The
changed.
protocol
on femoral-
changed. Yeah, absolutely. So that was the scene. And I go, yeah, but I'm more interested in these Delta guys. No, Johnny, that's the scene. And I go, okay. And I'm trying to think, and I come up with a game plan. I'm going to go in and I'm going to read it and my performance as a Delta guy, not as an 18-year-old Ranger first day on the job.
Yeah.
But as a Delta dude, you know? And so I go in, I'm waiting for this day. I planned it. You know, I got a beard kind of grown out a little bit. My hair's kind of long and, you know, all over the place. I go in and she sets up the camera to put me on tape and we read the scene and I do it instead of it. So usually, right, how the young actor who actually played Jamie's part did it, you know, like, you know, tell my mom I did good, you know, like truly tragic and emotional and panicked and terrified. I tried to do it more like a guy trying to cover that, like to hide that, like tell my mom I did good, you know, tell my mom I did good.
Trying to remain stoic, more stoic, kind of
to
like
have, to allow it to peer behind the glass, but to try to make it seem like he's hiding it, you know. And so we did the scene, and she goes, "Okay, stop the camera, stop the camera." She knew what I was fucking doing, dude. She knew it. And she goes, "Johnny," she goes, "That's great. That's great. But he's 18 and this is his first deployment and he's really nervous and da, da, da." And I go, "Oh, got it. Yeah, okay, let me do that again." So we set up the camera, roll the camera. I did it the exact same way. Fucking Delta, bro. You know, like hiding it, but like still suffering. And she knew what I was doing. And afterwards she goes, "Okay, Johnny." She knew what I was up to. "Thank you for coming in, blah, blah, blah. Get back to you." I leave. I don't hear anything for a while.
Did you
And I'm
think
like,
that you're like, oh, I screwed myself, I'm done?
I thought that was it, man. I thought, you know, I fucked myself because I didn't do what should have been done for that scene, for that character, but I was trying to angle it.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Like, come on, man. And like at the end of the day, if you're going to join up, right? It's like there are certain groups, Rangers, Delta, SEALs, like, you know, Green Berets, you know, like there's certain places where you want to be, right?
Yeah.
Some guys, you know, some guys don't give a fuck, you know, whatever. But anyways, for me, I'm the type of guy, like I'm goal oriented, focus oriented. So I'm like, that's what I want, you know, specifically. I don't hear anything for a while. All of a sudden, I get a call. "Do you have your passport?" And this is months later. And I go, "Yeah, what's up?" "You're going to North Africa to shoot Black Hawk Down." And I said, "Well, wait a minute. What's the role? Like, what's the role?" And they fax me over. This is back in the days of faxes, right? 20 fucking something years ago. They fax me over the sides, right? The breakdown. And on the second page of the breakdown was 2 roles. It was Sergeant First Class Randy Shugart. Man, I get emotional just thinking about this shit, man. And Gary Gordon. And I looked at it, and right at that moment, I shit you not, it was like a fucking time machine, man, where I went back and I realized that those were the two fucking snipers in the History Channel show. That was like a lightning bolt from God, like saying, this is what you're gonna do. Man, it was unbelievable. It was unbelievable. Like seeing the path, like the course that you're on, and realizing it, like, you know, like you got to peek behind the fucking curtain, man. So I went,
That's
no
amazing.
shit. And they were like, yep, that's what you're doing. Get ready to go, blah, 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 pack your fucking bags. And I literally was on a plane within a few weeks, spent like almost 6 months in North Africa shooting that movie. But that was a whole segue. Sorry about that.
But that's an incredible story.
No,
That's an incredible story.
It
really
is, because
is.
and it sounds to me, just from talking to you here and just, you know, following your career, because it did. You don't know how many youngsters like myself that movie resonated with us and made me want to go. I actually was out of the military at that time, made me want to go rejoin. And I re-enlisted and went back in.
By the
But-
way, I want to ask you about that. Is your choice to go Blackwater or Triple Canopy, was Lee Van Arsdale at Triple Canopy?
Lee Van Arsdale was there at that time. It was in the early day.
Okay.
And
So Lee was one of our advisors on
Oh
Black
yeah,
Hawk.
well, he was there. He was with the 10th Mountain QRF.
Yeah.
I mean, that you read the story about Lee Van Arsdale. He's a legend, dude. That
Legend.
I mean, that
Legend.
dude is old school. I mean, he's OG. He's fucking but if you know about Lee actually, the 10th Mountain guys that came to try to help, that got in their own quagmire, they could make a movie off that too.
Off of that, yeah.
Yeah. But I remember some of the young guys saying, yeah, Lee, because Lee was salty at that, was like an E8 at that time, or Sergeant Major at that time. They said, we saw him just walking down like he was walking in the park, just getting shot at. And I'll be honest, I remember that when Benghazi happened, thinking, okay, I got to keep my head, because I remember hearing stories about Lee Van Arsdale, and that's why I would be just, fuck it, let's just run and get shot. It wasn't that I wasn't shitting my pants. It's from those guys that came before me that I looked up to as, those are gods.
Yeah.
Okay, that's what he did. So I'm not going to shit my pants, or at least I'm going to shit my pants, but nobody's going to see it.
Nobody's going to know about it.
And I'm going to be walking out because of Lee Van Arsdale. So, and that says a lot why it was so, you know, at least I wasn't in Somalia. I was still out of the military. That was early. That was in college that time. But to me, you know, Dale and David and Danny, the Rangers, say, yeah, they're it was kind of accurate. It kind of wasn't, but at least the personalities and I know the Delta guys, to me, it was very accurate. It came across as very accurate. Now, knowing what I know now, as far as combat goes, to me, it gets better every year. It's like, yeah, that's right. That's what we, and then seeing my own cam, I go, yeah, that's how we act, man.
Yeah. Well, the thing about that was interesting about Lee, you know, Lee was, man, he was, I don't want to say heartbroken, but frustrated would be a great word, while we were shooting Black Hawk, because he'd be sitting there, and when I was there, most of them, I would hang out mostly with the actual 160th guys that were there, the pilots,
the Night Stalkers, the task force guys, Night Stalkers,
or the advisors. There were a couple actors that I did spend some time with, but for the most part, I didn't hang out with the actors. I hung out with the advisors or the guys that were there from the military. But Lee would be like, man, they're fucking this shit up. And I would what? And he's like, we would never do that. Go into that building and do this. You know, he was like, and I was the guy that was like, Lee, here's the deal. It's a movie. And there's certain things that you're going to kind of have to fight for that are like, man, this is fucked up. And if you do this, you're going to ruin this. And there's certain things that you just got to go, it's a fucking movie, and you just got to deal with it. And that's the way it's got to be.
I agree. I remember fighting for some things on the set myself, and then having Pablo said the same thing to me. I was like, fuck, that's not, we wouldn't do, but for the most part though, they got it pretty fucking good.
You can get it to a point, man, where if you as a veteran, in the situation, right? I know a lot of guys that when Black Hawk happened, man, when we were all there at the premiere, bro, everyone was in tears. Like you had like generals that were fucking like full on like, holy shit, you know? And I'm sure that's the way it was.
It was no, it was me. I was in tears when I saw the first sizzle reel in Malta. I was like,
Yeah.
and Pablo thought I was pissed. I mean,
Yeah.
he actually
No,
came to me. He
you-
goes,
you
"What did I
know.
fuck?" He goes, "What did I fuck up?" I said, "Dude,
No, that's
nothing.
it. Yeah.
It's
And that's the
perfect."
thing is like really what, I mean, at least I can speak for myself. And I know Ridley was, had this mindset too. And I know Jerry is definitely on this mindset is when we're trying to make something, whether it be 13 Hours or Black Hawk or Warhorse, to me, right? And maybe I just speak for myself, but it's really a love letter. It's a love letter to give back to those that sacrificed and those who answered the call. Like to me, that's what that should be. You know what I mean? I don't want to make. I don't. You know. I'm trying to think here. I think it would be disrespectful to make an action movie, right, about something that happened in Benghazi or Somalia or wherever,
Afghanistan, sure, yeah.
you know, Iraq, anything, and try to make it cool on a level of like, you know, there's a fella that I just recently spoke to him and we've connected, John McVie, Shrek. I don't know if you know who that is. Former
Yeah, so I
Delta
was just
Dude,
on
Delta
Sean
guys.
Ryan too.
man, the way he talks about shit is like, man, this was fucking awesome. We just leveled these dudes and da 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 da. You know, like so everyone has a different perspective. You know,
Of course.
but for me, you know, like you know, I find it a responsibility to not present the tragedy of war in a
Like a propaganda film.
yeah,
Like
I'm
a,
not
like
sure.
a go
Yeah,
out and be all you could be enjoying. And it's gonna be,
exploitative, like yeah, I don't
yeah,
want to make it an exploitative like pornography.
No, you're right.
You know what I mean? I
yeah,
want
like a GI Joe type of
I want to what I want to do is I want to show the only thing that is you know on the in that should be admired is true heroism. You know,
Yeah.
like the concept of Chris and his dudes showing up as protectors, as saviors, as people that are there to like do what they can do to make sure people live. I love that quote, right, of the PJs, right? So that what is it?
So
Like,
others, so others may live. So others may live. Yeah,
you know,
yeah. So others may live.
I absolutely love that, and I think that is what should be the goal. And I know that Jerry is really respectful of it, and I know Ridley was with Black Hawk, and I speak for myself. And Michael, I know
He was extremely he was extremely respectful to us, and that's why in the military you'll go to the Corps, you know, you'll go to the even the old Corps cadets at Texas A&M, and they got John 15:13 up on their heads. It's you know, love is no greater than this, that a man lay down his life for his friend. That's the
right.
Army career. That's and it is and that's what we want to see. The bravado, like I always tell people when I do my talks, bravado's there. You're gonna have the bravado, but what is real is a little bit of the doubt, the jackassery, the jokingness that comes at the most impromptu times, or the thoughts of just briefly back home and then trying to get them out of your head so you can focus on the job and make sure you and that's what comes across, you know, and that's why it was awesome having the little girl, your concept in Warhorse with that concept. And I never would think about that, but going to rescue and the only one that was left is the little girl. And that to me, that's, I know that's real. I mean, I know that shit happens. I've seen some of those fuckers and that's accurate.
Well,
That's
well,
accurate.
dude, you know, I've had, and I am so grateful that people like yourself and other people that have come to me after seeing the film, I should have pulled them up, but I've got some great messages, like private messages from people saying, you know, I had an experience where a little girl was the only survivor of a situation,
Yeah.
you know, and the film, you know, if anything, right, I don't create the films for that. Like I'm not like, so some people, they make movies as a occupation where they're creating a product to sell to people, right? Where that's kind of in the business model, right? Like if blue underwear is popular, right? Fuck, let's make blue underwear and fucking, you know, just sell millions of these
Sure.
fucking things and make a ton of money, right? To me, I've got no interest in following that path in the limited time here I have on this planet. My thing is to find like true meaning and purpose of what my calling is here, right? And I feel, right, as a storyteller, as a filmmaker, it's ancient. I'm like the modern cave painter, you know, in a way where my children, I don't want them growing up watching these weird, fucking strange, like mentally deranged propaganda films from Hollywood that are designed to like destroy what we consider as true heroism or heroes, or what is heroic and what is villainous and what is good and what is evil. For me, my calling is like, I want to create films that like my children could watch and other people's children could watch and go, yeah, that's what a good guy would do. And that's a bad guy. And that's a good guy. And that's, you know, what's right, wrong, good, evil, and things like that. And so to me, that is my calling, and hopefully, you know, for the film and the new one I'm working on, the sequel, you'll see. I can't wait to share it with you, man. I've already, and so, you know, right, the last 5 minutes of Warhorse 1, I already have the last 5 minutes of Warhorse 2.
Well,
right?
and that's I'm curious. I was
I
gonna.
have it done. Oh
I know.
man, it's so
I got.
good.
I know we're keeping you long, man. I could talk to you for another hour.
Yeah, I
David.
know. Well, we should
And-
at some point we need to get together and just reality off
Bring
the
out the
podcast,
shit.
you know?
Heck yeah, dude.
Yeah.
I guess.
Is there a tentative release date though?
Yeah.
No, so the fortunate thing that I have as an artist is I'm not under the duress of any sort of timeline. When the movie is what the movie's gonna be, then I'll release
So
it.
after you've
you know?
done 89, 90 edits and you want it perfect,
You know, the thing is, it literally, Chris, I'm not shitting you. Like this, I can show you. I have like 300 plus storyboards that I hand drawn.
Oh, I bet.
For the film, you know, and then I'll show you at some point. Maybe we'll do another podcast when the film comes out, like in a couple
Oh,
years.
definitely.
Oh, definitely. Hell yeah.
And I'll show you like the storyboards and the actual frames of film. I mean, they're just fucking identical, and it's so beautiful. But I don't rush it. It becomes what it becomes, you know, like that, like
Yeah.
you know, what it's going to be. But right now I have and I did this. So my buddy Bernie, I talked about, he's a jiu-jitsu coach in California. I put him in the movie too. So I like to put my friends and vets and stuff that I like, my boys, you know, like
Adam Sandler does that shit. That's right. There's nothing wrong with that.
and I used to hang with Adam back in the day when he was just doing stand-up stuff after SNL, and I would go to like his, like the sort of like the private screenings at CAA of his movies that he was making, like Waterboy and the other
That's
thing
so
where he
cool.
played the kid. Anyways,
Big
Billy
Dad.
Madison.
Billy Madison.
Yeah,
Yeah. We went to see that. Adam was a great dude. But so anyways, I kind of put all my friends in it. Beto, I'm going to put him in the next one. A bunch of different dudes. We're going to bring in some dudes. So anyways, so my buddy Bernie, I brought him in. He's playing a sniper in the film. And a good friend of mutual friend of ours, Big Mike, he's an artist, amazing fucking artist. If you ever need a table, you guys, a table or something built, I'll send you this guy's info. Michael Graham, he's fucking.
Oh, definitely. Yeah. Definitely.
He does like some amazing woodwork. But anyway, so I put them both in the movie, and I shot for 2 days with them doing this huge sniper sequence. And afterwards I was like, hey, come to the house and we'll have a little barbecue at the house, you know? And so my girl's grilling and I bring him into the studio, and I never do this. Like I would, I didn't even share completed stuff of the film until I was totally complete with my family. Like I would like lock everybody out, just bring me food and get out, you know? But I sat them down in my studio and I said, I'm going to play you the last 5 minutes of the movie. And I played it, and I'm sitting there, right? And like 2 minutes in, bro, I got fucking tears rolling down my eyes, and I'm watching, and it's got that same thing that the first film that I did. And I look over at Big Mike, dude. He's like almost 300 pounds, bro. Big black dude. He's got tears rolling down the sides of his face, bro. And I look over and I go, and he goes, dude, it's so good. It was one of those things where it's like, I can't even explain it. And not everyone will feel it, dude. Like what you felt, Chris, and what I feel, and what a lot of other people I know feel when they experience that magic. Some people don't feel that, dude.
Of course.
It's something that, and it's actually clinical, that they like scientifically, they say some people could feel music. Some people like get goosebumps when certain things happen, and some people are dulled. They can't feel that, you know?
Yeah. It's
And
awesome.
you're a music guy, Ian, right?
Yeah, so absolutely, man. I was tearing up seeing Linkin Park last week, man, because some of those songs are so fucking powerful, man.
I watched a little snippet of that little thing they did in LA, the concert that they did.
Yeah. Oh, and by the, I don't know your feeling on it. I mean, I think Emily Armstrong, man, she's killing it. I really love what
I
doing.
I'll tell you what, I'll be honest. I didn't dive too far into it.
Sure.
But I thought she did a great job.
I did, yes, for sure.
And I know there's a lot of bullshit. Like
exactly. We spoke about it in the last episode.
Yeah, we did. Yeah, we did. I thought she was. Who gives a shit? They sound good. I mean, I don't know all that other crap.
I think what we as society progresses, it gets better in a lot of ways and worse in a lot of ways.
Fully agree. Yeah.
And it's like, for instance, right, is Stone Temple Pilots, man. I was watching YouTube the other day, and one of their songs came on, and I was like, fuck, man, these guys were so fucking good, man.
I
They
know.
were, man.
The
I'm
Leo
so thankful I
brothers
got to
and-
see them live many times.
Yeah, man, I saw them at Vegas at the Hard Rock during the, when Scott would wear the American flag at the end of the deal. Man, what talented folks, and great band and great music that they gave the world. The other side, you could focus on, man, drug problems and this and that and the other, but who fucking cares about that, man? Put on music and let that soothe the spirit,
Yeah, no, absolutely, man. And I think people, when they hear how that last 5 minutes resonates with you, it's going to resonate with them.
And the
People are gonna
music
be
that you
excited.
put, that was what's so the music that
Yeah. Oh,
comes
bro.
with the movie, and that's even with
people-
even with our movie. I mean, we have Lauren Balfe and Hans Zimmer on ours.
Yeah,
I mean, that's,
people will be very excited to see number 2 after this interview. Unless Chris has anything else.
the only
The
thing.
last
If you,
question.
I
Can
got
just
one.
get
After
one
this.
last question.
Yes, you.
and
Yes,
then-
you may. Ian.
Okay.
Yes, you may. Bro.
So my last question, because we got to wrap up here. But
All right.
my,
Yeah,
my,
we
my
can.
last question is, we had Pablo Schreiber on, who obviously did a great job portraying Chris. And that was a really great interview. It
Yeah,
was great having
he's
him
a
in
good dude.
studio.
It's good.
But one clip that we had that a lot of people really liked, and some people don't like him saying this, some people do, but he was saying, I don't want to make movies for a right-wing audience. I don't want to make movies for a left-wing audience. I don't want to be just the military guy. For you, I guess you are a versatile person in life. Do you embrace being the military guy in films, or do you feel like I want to expand those boundaries? Because it sounds like you're going to do a lot more military projects.
I'll tell you what, John Wayne made a lot of cowboy movies,
For sure.
John Wayne wasn't a cowboy.
Not
He was
even
an
close.
actor.
Yeah.
For me, my generation, I'd say, right, it was like, I'd venture to say, like, what other generation had like over 20 years at war?
That's true.
I think there's something very specific about this timeline. And as a filmmaker, I have a lot of ideas, right, that I'd like to do. The Warhorse trilogy for me is sort of my love letter to the GWAT generation, you know? I don't know if I'll do another 100 war movies, you know? I want to focus on these 3 films that are war films in a lot of ways, right? Where the new film takes us into Syria.
Wow.
Yeah, yeah. And back into Afghanistan for a moment and then into Syria. But you know, I don't know if it's something that like I'm driven to do, or if it's the what I'm being given from God at this moment. And whatever it is, it's like I'm here to be the deliverer of that baby. You know what I mean? Like,
Yeah, no, it's under completely understand. It's your
uh,
path. It's like a path. You're on a path right now, and that's
this is my path. Yeah.
that path might divvy in 2 or 3 years somewhere
Yeah,
else. And
I don't think I'm going to be playing a trans dancer at any point. So if that's specifically like, you know, and that's the thing about right wing, left wing, everything is so like politic derivative or driven these days, where identity politics and
Yeah.
Hollywood is this weird fucking monster of a strange thing that like feels it needs to push this kind of agenda on the world or whatever. And then there are the other side, right, where it's like the right wing feels like it has to like produce this agenda. I just want to tell beautiful stories. I want to make good films, you know.
and it saves lives, literally. I'm not in figured. I'm just telling you, just from my own experiences, and we appreciate that. It means a lot, and it means a lot when an actor wants to get it right, not just the tactics. The tactics are important,
Sure.
but wants to get the emotion right, because that's what brings us back to a specific moment in Kandahar, in Lashkar, in Baghdad. It's that holy shit, that just hit me. And I told you that when I saw this scene with the little girl, like, dude, that hit me like a bolt of lightning. Just
Yeah.
whoom. And I was
Yeah.
like, man, but it's a good bolt of lightning. It's not
Sure.
bad. So
Well,
so
this
no,
is it's if it could be healing in a way,
it is
if
healing.
if it could be, and that's really like for me, man, when I watch the film, I'm in fucking tears. Not, and I don't watch for me. A lot of people like they come from the ego, right? 27, almost 27 years of jujitsu. It destroys your ego,
I mean-
destroys it. You can't walk in the room with your ego, and it builds your confidence to where it's like for me, I can speak for myself. I'm separate. I don't watch me in Warhorse 1 and go, man, fucking what a badass. To me, I look at it and it's just that character. It's just, you know, and what that character is for me is like I want to show the multifaceted side of the combat warrior, and that what makes these guys special isn't the ability or skill set to just kill or operate, but it's that they can do those things and be a good human being at the same time. That's what's special, you know?
That's important, because if not, Hollywood on the other side will take it and we'll turn it into that robot warrior
Yeah,
and
yeah.
that's a negative in my opinion. And you're right. No, I agree with you on the right and left. I remember when Tu Wong Fu came out. I love that movie, dude. But now if I loved it, I would be pigeon holed on somebody else's.
Oh man, it's like,
it's
you know,
just-
it became a thing, dude, where, you know, where it's like if you're not pro giving children like mutilation pills and you know, all this kind of shit, then you're right wing. Or if you're not, you know, pro
Yeah.
destroying, you know, Palestine one child at a time, you're left wing. Like to me, it's like, bro, just fucking be good human beings, stop killing each other, and fucking like, you know, just be good human beings.
Just
You know what I mean?
just enjoy life.
Just enjoy life, man.
Just
Yeah,
enjoy
absolutely.
life. Watch Blazing Saddles and laugh and not be
It's
offended.
one of my favorites.
We're
too.
offended, but yeah, we kept you, and I said when it comes out, we'd love to have you on again, or
I'd love
Oh,
to.
yeah.
or whenever, because dude, it's great conversation. I love talking to you. You remind me of Andy. You remind me of Andy and Pablo. To be honest, you were like their love child, but that way. It's been awesome, and
Yeah,
yeah,
this was
it's been
great, man.
brother.
Some amazing stories
Yeah.
and also just some like divine intervention in your life of how one thing led to another. And I think it'll inspire a lot of people. So yeah, check out johnnystrong.com at Team J Strong on Instagram. And yeah, we'll definitely do this again when the second movie comes out, and we'll definitely get Wes Whitlock on, because I know I reached out to him literally probably 3 or 4
I'll
years
fucking
ago,
text
and it
him
just never
tonight. I'll
happened.
text him.
Yeah,
I'll text
we'll
him
do
and
it.
tell
Well, the
him.
problem is we get like truthfully, there's so many guests to get on. So it's like every month
And
I call Chris and it's like, we got to get this guy on, this guy on, this guy
And
on.
we
but
only do once a
have
week
once a week. So
we
we'll
have
make it
lives.
happen.
I got
We'll
I got
definitely
other
have him on at
things
some
to
point.
do, but Wes,
But yeah,
we-
thank you, man.
Yeah, John, let Wes know. And yeah, I'd love to have him on, just to finally. We've known each other in the social media world, but we've never officially met each other.
There
So it'd be
are
nice to have
there
him.
are a bunch of guys that I have in this film that are fantastic. Two guys that you should have on is Wes Whitlock, absolute stud, dude, of a human being. Paul DeGelder. Have you ever heard of Paul DeGelder?
Yeah, yeah.
don't know
I've
Paul.
interviewed Paul
I
DeGelder.
don't know
You want to
Paul.
know what's
Did you?
funny? I asked Paul
Paul's
DeGelder to
in,
come on the
Paul's in the
show.
sequel. Yeah, go ahead.
Okay,
shit.
I asked
No
Paul
shit.
DeGelder to come on the show. So for those, and we'll wrap up here, but for those
Okay,
who don't
sorry,
know
guys.
Paul DeGelder is former Australian military. He lost his arm and leg in a shark attack. Awesome guy. I've interviewed him before, and I actually did reach out to him to come on Battle Line, and he was just like, dude, I've done so many interviews. I am tired of talking about myself. He was like, don't take any offense to it. He's like, it's not you, but he's like, I don't want to talk about myself
Then
anymore. I was like, cool, I get it.
Get in his shit though, and tell him to come on. But
Yes, I
get
will.
that
I
too.
will. But Paul
get
is,
that
you
too.
know, I'll tell you what, he might be sick of talking to himself, but the second, like, we did a thing. So here's another thing, right? Oh man, I gotta let you guys go. But, fucking,
But he's a
you
great
know,
dude. He's a great dude. He really
I was
is.
casting for the movie, and I had this part for either Australian or British, former SAS guy, and the dude commented, "Put me in, coach."
That's what he
And
said.
I got connected with him. I'm like, "What's up, dude?" And he's like, "Fucking, I'd love to do it, mate. Let's fucking do it." And I said, "Man, you got a crazy story. I didn't know about you. You lost your arm and your leg, And I said, privately, I said, you know, listen, man, I don't want to put you in the movie because of that. I think you're perfect for the fucking part, and I think you could be a great actor. So if you don't mind, I want to hide the arm and the leg and all that kind of stuff and just let you play a character in the movie." And he's like, "Fuck yeah, man, let's fucking do it." But anyways, he would be great. Wes Whitlock would be great.
Yeah.
Slade would also be a fucking great guest. Beto
But you
would
realize,
fucking be
do you
great.
know this happens every time we have a great guest on? They're like, you got to get this guy and this guy. And it's like, we only have so many shows.
But send
we will
us
try.
send us the names, man.
I will.
Send us the
I'll
names.
text you these guys.
And
These
one-
guys are great.
One last
But if we
comment.
took everybody's guest suggestion, Chris knows this, we'd be doing like 10 shows a day.
Ian used to get pissed at me. He's like, dude, stop telling people they can come on this show. But no, I was like, no, we're having
I've also
Johnny
even
on. I
said
was
like when
no.
we do Q&As, I'm
man.
like, no more guest suggestions.
more
We have
guests.
enough guest
Uh,
suggestions.
I want to, that's the elephant in the room to me, but what motherfucker has a damn army wall locker in their room, dude, in the backside right there? That is
That's my underwear drawer.
not sure it is. Like he's got a go locker right there. He's probably got a damn Mark 46 sitting in there with
No, I think it's part of it's part of the way everyone, that personal responsibility of being able to handle business if you need to take care of business. You know?
I'm just making fun because I got the same damn locker in my house. So don't even, I'm just giving. Yeah. So just so say like, man, yeah, he's got something in there. I've got a few. I've got a couple guns in mine, just 2 or 3.
Man, I got some. In the sequel, I got some great stuff coming for you guys. Some good tactic stuff, but like more things that are going to touch on some stuff that I think are really important for our veterans and I
Good.
hope you guys like it, and I can't wait to share it with you.
Man, we can't wait to see
Appreciate
it.
it,
Yeah,
man.
brother. Again, thanks for coming on and
Thank you,
being
Chris.
candid. It's always so
Ian,
nice,
thank
Oh, yeah.
you.
candid, to come on here and tell your stories because you got some fucking great stories, dude. And
We got more to share, and then we should do it in person and hang out at some point.
Definitely.
As I said to
Definitely.
you when I booked you, man, if you're in New York City at any point, in studio would be awesome. So
Where are you filming at, man? Where do you do your filming
I'm
at? Or
all
where
over
do
the
you-
place, right? I'm in a few different states filming. The rest of the shoot, I'm in Utah
Okay.
shooting down there. Man, it's awesome.
Are you like at Camp Williams, or are you doing it
No,
outside,
no,
like in the high
no.
desert?
high desert stuff?
No, we used to
Uh,
train out there. In the high desert. I mean, we used to have Desert Phase Ranger School was out in Dugway Proving Grounds is what they were called, but
Oh,
it's the
okay, okay.
high desert area.
Yeah, we
it's-
did some stuff. We did some great stuff with. I don't know if you know. You should interview this guy, dude. Dave Sparks. You know who Dave
I
Sparks
don't know
is?
Dave. No, I don't.
Holy shit, dude. Dave Sparks, the Diesel Brothers. They were on, I think they had a TV show on Discovery Channel. And here's another thing, real quick before we go. I hate doing this to you guys. Sorry. So you want to talk about like visions and things and paths crossing? Like, so when I first wrote the sequel, I, as an homage to Black Hawk, I was like, I have this sequence where my character is brought on this mission with a Black Hawk helicopter. Sort of an homage to my
Yeah.
fan base, you know what I mean? To those who know. And so when I first started talking about it, a couple people were like, dude, you got to reach out to Dave Sparks. He's in fucking Utah and he just bought a Black Hawk helicopter.
Just
And literally right when they said it, I go, who's Dave Sparks? And I type it in and it's YouTube and he's got this thing, big beard, big dude. He does like crazy YouTube stuff where he builds these crazy machines and buys these crazy machines, does all this shit. But the thing that really sparked me about this dude was that he uses his stuff to find missing people and reunite their bodies with the families, like people that have been missing for 20 years and cars that have been like gone missing, haven't found, and then they dredge a lake and then they find the car with
Wow.
the body in it and that stuff, like really good human being stuff and stuff that moved me. And I was like, fuck yeah, I want to connect with this dude. And so the vision in my head, I was like, dude, I'm going to make him like one of the pilots or the crew chief or whatever. I realized he had so much YouTube stuff going on, and I was like, man, I don't know if I'll nail him down. So I asked the producer to find another Blackhawk. Found another Blackhawk. Scheduled it, it fell through. Scheduled it, it fell through. 3 times it did, and then she finally said, "Hey, is there anything we could do?" And the guy says, "Well, I got a friend of mine in Utah named Dave Sparks, and he's got a fucking Blackhawk. Here's his number." She gave it to me. I fucking called him. He didn't pick up the phone. I texted him. I said, "Hey man, my name's Johnny Strong, Blackhawk down, blah, 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 blah. Let me know if you got a chance." Bro, he called me instantly and was like, "Dude, Blackhawk down is my favorite fucking movie. Why I bought a Blackhawk helicopter." And I go, "Well, dude, I'm making a movie and I need a fucking Blackhawk." And he goes, "Can I be in it?" And I go, "I already have the fucking scene written for you." And he's like, "Fuck it, let's do it." So we went out and did it. And it was like, the vision, again, that same thing, the path, the fate, the destiny, hand of God, like that was what was supposed to happen. You know,
Do it. And that's the first, that's from Warhorse 1 though. That's
Yes.
from the first one.
Yeah.
Yeah. And when you're flying in, that's his Black Hawk that you're
no,
flying
that's
in?
no, that's in this new movie. That'll
Oh,
be
that's in the new one. Cause you flew
Yeah.
in on it. Cause you came in. That's what or was that CGI? Was that just,
no, well, there was a few things in there. That was some CG, that was some stock footage and some
Gotcha.
miniature stuff that I did.
Gotcha. Okay.
But anyways, hey, I love you both. Thank you so much for
No,
having me on
appreciate
the
it, man.
show.
And like I
Yeah,
said,
John.
if you're ever in New York City to do anything, email me or whatever, and we'll do it in studio. That'd be awesome.
And if you do any filming in Texas, let me know. Cause that's,
Are you in Texas? Dude,
I'm-
I'm down there. I'm gonna be doing like a night vision thing down there in November.
I
Like
mean,
right
that's,
before Thanksgiving.
I'm in Southeast, I'm around the border of Oklahoma and Kansas, but
Do you know where Dilly is?
I've heard of it. I
That's
don't
where
know.
it's gonna be.
That's where you're doing filming, or you're just going down there?
No.
to shoot?
There's like it's like night vision thing that a buddy of mine that actually connected to my buddy Jamie who bought the hat at Wes's place. He was with Jamie the day he fucking bought the hat that he sent to me. He's running Night Vision Summit down in Texas.
Night Vision. I know where Night Vision. I know what that is. Yeah.
You know
I
what that is? Yeah.
Night-
So
yeah. You'll have.
I'm
you'll
going
have
down
fun.
there and I'm gonna be doing like a little screening of Warhorse down there.
Oh, that's cool, dude.
Yeah.
Well, just keep me posted, dude. You know,
Absolutely.
and-
We'll stay in
yeah.
touch.
All right, brother. Thanks,
All right.
Johnny.
Thanks, man.
Thank you
Yeah.
so much, boys.
That's all for this episode of Battleline Podcast. but we're always posting new content on social media. Follow us on Instagram at Battleline Podcast and on Twitter at Battleline Pod. That's an order. Be sure to subscribe so you don't miss any new episodes up every Tuesday. Leave us a review on Apple Podcasts or your podcast platform of choice. Believe in yourself. Face all challenges head on. And as always, never quit.